Alright, so electrons revolve around the nucleus only in certain permissible circular orbit known as shells. Okay, so basically, just like how planets revolve around the sun in their own particular orbits, electrons also revolve around the nucleus in their own particular orbits. And these orbits have, so Bohr named these orbits starting from the letter K. That means he said that the first or the innermost orbit is given by the letter K. The next orbit is given by the letter L, M, N, and so on. Okay. So basically he started naming the orbits from the letter K. So electrons revolve around the nucleus only in these particular orbits. Okay. So these orbits are also known as shells. Now, each orbit is associated with a definite energy. That means each of these orbits have a particular energy. Okay, that means the energy of this orbit is different from the energy of this orbit, is different from the energy of this orbit, is different from the energy of this orbit. The energy of an electron remains constant as long as it revolves in a given orbit. So if an electron is revolving in this orbit, its energy will not change. Okay. That means if there are two electrons in this orbit, both of these electrons have the same amount of energy. Okay. Both these electrons have the same amount of energy because they are revolving in the same orbit. Now, if I take another electron in this orbit, this electron will have a higher energy. Let's call this electron A, B, and C. Okay, electron A will have energy equal to electron B. Electron C will be greater than electron A. Okay, does that make sense? So that means the energy of an electron or the energy associated with a particular orbit increases in this direction. As it moves away from the nucleus, the energy increases. Okay. So, however, if there are two electrons in the same orbit, they have equal energy. Now, excitation. When an electron absorbs energy, it jumps from low energy level to high energy level. So when an electron, let's say A absorbs energy, okay? So A absorbs some energy. Now it is more than B. So A absorbs this particular amount of energy. It absorbs these packets of energy. Remember, we studied that in the Planck's quantum theory. So A has now absorbed some packets of energy and it has moved on to the second shell over here. Now what has happened? A has more energy than B because it has moved on to the next shell. This process is called excitation. When an electron absorbs energy, it jumps from low energy level to high energy level. This K is low energy level, this is lower energy level, and this is higher energy level. Okay. Now de-excitation. De-excitation is when an electron at a higher energy level is unstable, so it jumps from higher energy level to lower energy level and gives out energy. For example, look at electron C. If C gives out some energy, then it loses some energy and it comes to this. Okay, so now C comes down to a lower energy level. This is called as de-excitation. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Quiz time. All right. So fill in the above blanks, or sorry, below blanks. Yeah. Fill in the blanks below by selecting the right choice from the following. So just fill in the blanks. Tell me what the answer for A will be. So this is from Rutherford's experiment. So when he observed that the rays or the alpha rays did not get deflected, most of the alpha rays went straight. They did not get deflected. So what did he conclude from that?
Presence of nucleus.
No. Most of them went straight without getting deflected.
Hollowness.
Hollowness. Very good. Yes. Very good, Bhumika. You want to question B. Backward deflection of rays led to the conclusion of? Very good, Arnav. Yes, Neeta, very good. That was the answer for the first one. Very good. Presence of, no, not neutron, Bhumika. Presence of nucleus, very good. Yes, Bhumika, very good. Yes, Prachi, good. Okay, so let's proceed. Question C. Sidewise deflection of rays led to the conclusion of presence of proton because of repulsion. Very good, Bhumika. So alpha particles are positively charged. So when they come in contact or when they come close to protons, they will repel. And because of that repulsion, we'll see a sidewise deflection. Very good, Arnav. Very good, Divyam. Very good, Nimarta. Prachi. Yes, Vaibhav. Good. All right. So next question. Why do you think Rutherford's atomic model is called planetary or solar model?
Because the electrons revolve around the nucleus like the planets revolve around the sun.
Excellent. Very good, Akshayani. Yes. So just like how planets revolve around the sun, the electrons also revolve around the nucleus. That is why the Rutherford's atomic model is also called as the planetary or solar model. Very good. All right. Why do you think Rutherford's atomic model is called as the nuclear model? Very good, Nimarta. It is the first atomic model to feature a nucleus in its core. Yes. So because it has nucleus in it, it is also called as the nuclear model. Know that in the solar system we have the sun. Around the sun we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and so on. All these planets revolve around the sun. Yes? Okay, so that is the, so this is nothing but the solar system, and or it is, or you can also say the planets around, revolve around the sun. Okay. Now, similarly, electrons also revolve around the nucleus in different shells. Okay. So do you see the similarity between these two things? Yeah, they both look the same. That is why Rutherford's model is also called as the planetary or solar model. Is that clear now? Yeah, so now let's take a look at the modern atomic model. So that was all in the past. Now we have the modern atomic model. And what does that state? So here I have magnesium. This is a magnesium is an element. Yeah. Okay, the atomic number of magnesium is 12. The mass number is 24. If atomic number is 12, the number of protons will be how much? What will be the number of protons? Very good. Yes. Yeah. So we saw that the mass number is 24 and it has 12 neutrons also. Okay. So that is the magnesium atom. Now, what does the modern atomic model state? So basically, it'll tell you the number of, it'll tell you the constituents of an atom. Basically, that an atom has neutrons, protons, and electrons. Okay, these are also called as the subatomic particles. So these are the subatomic particles: electrons, neutrons, and protons. Charge on subatomic particle. Neutron has no electric charge on it. Its mass is almost equal to 1. Okay, so it has mass almost equal to 1. So it is denoted by the symbol 10N. So if this is N10, this will tell you the mass number. and this will tell you the charge. Okay. So proton has unit positive charge on it. Its mass is almost equal to the mass of one hydrogen atom. So similar to neutron, almost. Neutron is actually a little bit heavier than proton, but we almost consider them almost same. Okay. So it has unit positive charge. That means I'm going to write P. Charge is represented on the bottom left. So I'm going to write +1. And mass is represented on the top, so I'm just going to write 1. Okay. And similarly, first of all, proton has unit positive charge and its mass is almost equal to the mass of one hydrogen atom. Why do they say that it's equal to the mass of one hydrogen atom? Let's take a look. Hydrogen atom has one proton in the nucleus and one electron revolving around the nucleus. The mass of an electron is very it's very light. It's almost negligible, which is why we say that the mass of a proton is almost equal to the mass of a hydrogen atom. Okay. So proton is almost equal to the mass of a hydrogen atom. So electron has a unit negative charge on it. So just like how I represented this, neutron and proton, we can also represent electron with -1 negative charge and 0 on top, because I told you the mass is negligible. So mass is 1/1837 times the mass of one atom of hydrogen. So mass of one proton divided by 1837 is equal to mass of an electron, which is negligible. So we will take it as 0. So I can write it as E0 minus 1. All right. Is this clear to everyone? So yeah, so position of the subatomic particles. We know that protons and neutrons form the central core of the atom called the nucleus. Okay. They are held firmly together by strong nuclear forces. The electrons revolve around the nucleus. Now, if you look at over here, you'll notice that protons and neutrons, they're actually close to each other and they're revolving around each other. They're held together very strongly by forces that are called nuclear forces. Okay, so the nuclear force of attraction. So neutrons and protons are attracted to each other, which is why they are all clumped to each other and they're rotating around each other. Due to very strong forces between them. Who has proposed the modern atomic model theory? Okay, very good. So, good question. Yeah, so John Dalton, apparently. Thank you. I did not know that either. So, yeah, it was John Dalton. I should have known that. Yeah, John Dalton proposed the modern atomic theory. I knew it, I forgot. All right, so all right, so force on electrons. So electrons revolve around the nucleus in fixed orbits. Yeah, we already studied this. Centrifugal force, electrostatic force. Okay, electrons and the shells close to the nucleus is strongly. Okay, yeah. So electrons in the shells close to the nucleus are strongly held by electric pull of the protons. We know that these electrons over here, which are close to the nucleus, they have a lot of attraction, a lot of force of attraction because they are close to the positive charges. Now, positive charges, negative charges, because they are both oppositely charged, they will attract each other. So the electrons which are closest to the nucleus will be held together with much more force than the electrons which are further away from the nucleus. Okay. So these electrons which are close to the nucleus, which are held together by, by strong forces from the nucleus, they are called as the bound electrons. Okay. However, the electrons in the outermost shell experience very small nuclear forces, and these are called as the valence electrons. So electrons that are present in the outermost shell of an atom are called as valence electrons, and this shell is called as the valence shell. Alright, so the outermost shell is also known as the valence shell, and the electrons present in the valence shell are called valence electrons. So now, as the atom of any normal element is electrically neutral, it can be safely concluded that the total number of protons in the nucleus is equal to the total number of electrons revolving around the nucleus. What does this mean? So basically what it means is, if I have, for example, an helium atom, okay, so this is my normal helium atom. It has 2 protons and 2 electrons. 2 positively charged, 2 negatively charged, total is 0. That means it is a neutral atom. So an atom, any normal atom or atom of any normal element is electrically neutral, meaning the positive charges balance out the negative charges. That means the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. Alright, now let's take a look at the units of the length. Now, because an electron is so tiny, it doesn't make sense. Oh, sorry, not an electron. An atom is so tiny, it doesn't make sense for us to measure it in, with a regular scale or ruler, because we can't even see an atom. So if we can't even see an atom, imagining an atom in terms of millimeter or meter, it doesn't make sense. So it is almost equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meters. Okay, so that is what an angstrom unit is. So angstrom is equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So 1 angstrom, this is how angstrom is written. 1 angstrom is equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meter. Okay, so nanometer is, do you guys know what nanometer is? So 1 nanometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 9 meters, or you can say 10 to the power minus 6 millimeter. Okay, so angstrom is given by this, and mass of an electron, we have already done this. It is 1 by 1836 times the mass of a proton, and mass of a proton is, just multiply this, you will end up getting mass of a neutron is almost equal to the mass of a proton. Okay, so now, so the unified atomic mass unit is equal to the mass of an atom of carbon divided by 12. So what this means is, basically tells you the unit. So for example, if I take 1 proton, it has 1 unit mass. Okay, if I say 1 neutron, it has 1 unit mass. Okay, so basically that's what it means. And how you get that is by this formula, which I don't think you need. So let me just write that. Carbon atomic number is 6, protons 6, neutrons are also equal to 6. Okay, now if I add the mass of the protons and neutrons, I'll end up getting 12. Correct? So now if I put the mass, so mass of an atom is equal to mass of an atom. Alright, so I'll just write it as mass of an atom is equal to the number of protons plus number of neutrons. Okay, so number of protons plus number of neutrons will give me the mass of an atom. So mass of an atom of carbon is 12, because 6 plus 6, 12. 12 divided by 12 is equal to 1. Okay, so the unified atomic mass unit is given by this formula. Okay, so basically mass of an electron or mass of a proton is not denoted in units, hence it is a relative value. So that is why if I go back over here, I'll see that I've put 1. Okay, 1, this is the mass, right? Mass number is 1. I've measured the mass as 1. How did I get that? From this formula. Okay, so that is how I get atomic mass unit. So now, what do we do with this angstrom? Like, we know what this angstrom is. It is 10 to the power minus 10. But what do we do with that? So effective diameter of an atom. Okay, this is something you guys will have to remember. the effective diameter of an atom is 10 to the power minus 5 meter. Okay, so that will be a couple of angstroms, not a couple, quite a few angstroms. And the effective diameter of a nucleus of an atom is 10 to the power minus 15. Okay, so notice that diameter of an atom is 10 to the power minus 5 meters, and the diameter of the nucleus is 10 power minus 15 meters. That means the nucleus is almost, if I divide this by 10 to the power 10, if I divide the diameter of an atom by 10 to the power 10, that will give me the nucleus. So you can imagine how much of the atom is completely empty. Okay, so only that much part, 10 to the power minus 15 diameter, diameter of a circle, that much part is the nucleus. So you can imagine how much of the atom is completely empty. Okay.